evoke Sharky again, and I really don't know why I'm reviewing this. Lots of productions try to modernize Shakespeare to make it more accessible to a modern audience, and that's fine. Some choose to move events to a different century altogether to present the play in a new aesthetic, which is also a valid choice. A lot of them are actually pretty good, or at the very least, tolerable. This, yeah. I'll show you in a few seconds. Welcome to Modern Quill. This is Richard II. Let's talk about the play first. Richard II is one of William Shakespeare's history plays, and is the first in what is known as the Henriad, which spans both parts of Henry IV and culminates in Henry V. Throughout all of these plays, Richard II's shadow looms over all of the major characters. His influence felt years after his death. It's also a play written entirely in verse, iambic pentameter at that. So with all the artistry and narrative weight that this play contains, you'd think anyone making an adaptation would take extra care to make sure that these wonderful, crucial moments would come through. This did not. The entire thing looks like a Film 102 project. If that's all this was, I wouldn't review it. Unfortunately, this is a commercial release, commercial enough that you could rent it on Netflix, so guess what? Fair game. Anyway, for this adaptation, director John Farrell decided to set the events in a nondescript, war-ravaged world type thing, where England and Ireland look exactly the same and everyone looks like they're wearing gear that they rented from the local military surplus store. That's probably because it was shot on Fort Strong in Boston. And not just the exterior shots. According to the credits, this was shot entirely on location at Fort Strong, Long Island, Boston, Massachusetts. I'm not sure if that's a typo or a textual representation of the Bostonian accent. Someone help me out here. Either way, the fact that it's shot in the same area hurts the interpretation a bit. When Richard sends Bolingbroke away, it looks like he goes no further than 100 yards. That's not banishment, that's a timeout. And as far as the aesthetic goes, on very specific parts it actually kind of works. When Bolingbroke's army storms what passes for a castle, both militias carry non-standard weapons ranging from M16A1s to shotguns that can be used as long-range weapons for some strange reason, to revolvers and M3s, which does help in fleshing out the kind of world that these people live in. One where the military grabs hold of whichever weapons they can because everything's gone to hell for the past few decades. For everything else, not so much. I usually have a high tolerance when it comes to things that are done on a low budget. The scene where Bushy and Green get killed off by someone with 2 shots from a 357 Magnum without actually switching his aim between shots, I can let slide. The fact that they use a mirror, which resembles a reject from a glass-blowing 101 project, I can let go as well. What I can't let go is how they decided to deal with the crown, which is the focal piece of the deposition scene. Maybe my subconscious was making me ignore all the signs leading up to it because I was hoping that this movie could not possibly get any dumber than it already was. I was proven horribly wrong. So what did they turn the crown into? Just watch.
Here, cousin, seize the crown. Here, cousin.
I thought you were willing to resign.
My crown I am, but still my griefs are mine.
A Marine dress cap. Not rank insignia, just a Marine dress cap. And it's not even a general's cap, or a colonel's cap, or even a lieutenant colonel's cap. It's an enlisted cap. One of the main things about this play is that Richard was bankrupting the treasury over things that he shouldn't be, painting him as flamboyant and wasteful. A Marine enlisted cap doesn't really express that as far as Richard is concerned. If they took out the line which said that he was, I would let this go. But the line remains, and so does my grievance. Seriously, of all the things they decided to cheap out during their trip to the military surplus store, this should not have been one of them. And the fact that they had someone carry it on a pillow is just sad. As far as the script cut goes, it's admittedly quite interesting. The movie tries to use Richard's imprisonment in Act 5 as a framing device. Unfortunately, this segment is scattered so badly that anyone who's unfamiliar with the play will find themselves rather confused. As if these flashbacks and flash-forwards weren't enough, one of the scenes suddenly turns monochrome just to add to the confusion. The non-linear approach is a novel concept, but here it's done really badly. As far as dialogue goes, lines from the original are often given to different characters instead, which isn't bad in itself. One of the more creative executions was with Queen Isabel, who also has all of the groom's lines since she disguises herself while visiting Richard in prison. If she also disguised herself as the Welsh captain at some point, she'd be Georgina Parfitt. A more standard approach, on the other hand, is Almerle, who has her lines as well as a good number of Richards and a few of Baggett's. Instead of character doubling or tripling as is often done on stage, they just decided to create character amalgamations, so in this aspect it does get points for creativity. As for the acting itself, it's pretty soap opera, at best. Matt Osian, who plays Richard, he's really just orating instead of acting.
I live with bread like you. Feel want. Taste grief. Need friends. Subjected thus. How can you say to me I am a king?
Was that reverb really necessary? It doesn't really add to his performance. Kadina Elejalde as Queen Isabel, at least, exhibits some actual facial expressions. Also, this Isabel has a lot more to do in this interpretation. Special mention must go to Robert McCafferty, who plays Northumberland. For some reason, director John Farrell envisioned the character as a James Bond villain, up to and including an evil laugh that's so badly done that it's not even ironically funny, it's just sad.
The mind of Bolingbroke is changed. You must await at Pomfret, not into the tower. Madam, there is order taken for you. With all swift speed, you must away to France.
As mentioned, everyone either acts like they're in a soap opera or just don't care. Seriously, does anyone believe that these guys are restraining Mowbray right now? And now for the technical aspects. Dear freaking Cthulhu, the technical aspects. If you've ever wanted a lesson on how not to shoot a movie, this would be it. The number of technical issues that Richard II has is enough to make most people stop watching after 10 minutes, and I wouldn't blame them. Problems range from the lack of a windscreen on the many exterior shots that makes hearing dialogue a struggle, non-existent white balance, really bad framing choices, fade transitions into freeze frames, fading to black then fading into the exact same scene, using obvious digital zoom instead of doing so on set, or at least with just pickup shots, horrible scene editing where one scene was clearly shot on two different locations but they decided to just use them together instead of just picking one despite the fact that they are so radically different, and the music. Holy crap, the music. It's like they generated their soundtrack from a Yamaha 2612 chip. Seriously, at some point I swear they lifted the soundtrack from an Echo the Dolphin level. So, do I recommend this adaptation? No? This is migraine-inducing. I have never seen a production do so many things wrong in such rapid succession. The concept was interesting enough, but that's about it. As its own movie, it's terrible. As an adaptation, it's abysmal. It's not even good enough to watch and make fun of, it's just not worth it. But you know what? If you really want to see this movie, it's on Netflix, so go rent it. Anyway, this has been Sharky. You've been watching Modern Quill.